Picture this: you're standing on the edge of a vast, jagged opening in the ground, the air thick with the scent of damp earth and ancient stone. Below you, darkness stretches deep into the earth, a silent void that has hidden unimaginable secrets for millions of years. This isn't just a hole in the ground, it's a portal to another time, a natural vault safeguarding fossils so pristine, so startling, they force us to rethink everything we know about life on our planet. Sinkholes have long been seen as mere curiosities, sudden collapses in the Earth's surface that swallow roads and buildings. But what if I told you these eerie pits are far more than geological accidents? They're time machines, preserving entire lost worlds in their depths, worlds we're only just beginning to uncover. Think about the last time you stumbled upon something forgotten, an old photograph tucked in a book, a relic buried in your backyard. That thrill of connection, of touching the past, is what scientists feel when they rappel into these shadowy chasms. But instead of dusty trinkets, they find giants. Enormous bones of creatures that once ruled vanished landscapes, plants frozen in time, even entire ecosystems perfectly preserved as if nature pressed pause. These sinkholes aren't just pits, they're libraries, each layer a page in Earth's diary waiting to be read, and the stories they tell, they're rewriting history. One discovery in a Florida sinkhole revealed mastodon bones with cut marks suggesting humans arrived in North America thousands of years earlier than we thought. Another in China yielded a hidden forest at the bottom with species unknown to science. So how do these sinkholes become such perfect keepers of the past? It's a combination of chemistry, chance, and sheer isolation. Unlike open burial sites exposed to wind and scavengers, sinkholes act like natural traps. Animals venture too close, slip in, and are sealed away from decay in oxygen-poor water or sediment. Over millennia, minerals seep into their bones, turning them to stone while preserving delicate details, even the texture of skin, the shadow of feathers. And here's the most haunting part. For every sinkhole we've explored, there are countless others still hidden, their secrets intact. That's what we're diving into today, the most jaw-dropping discoveries from these subterranean vaults, the mysteries they've solved, and the even bigger questions they've raised. From the jungles of Mexico to the deserts of Australia, prepare to descend into the darkness where time stands still, and the past is never truly gone. To understand why sinkholes become such extraordinary time capsules, we need to peel back the layers of geology itself. Imagine rainwater, slightly acidic from absorbing carbon dioxide in the air, trickling through cracks in limestone bedrock over thousands of years. Like a slow-motion sculptor, it dissolves the rock, carving out hidden caverns and tunnels beneath our feet. Eventually, the ceiling of one of these cavities grows too thin to support the weight above, and in an instant the ground gives way. But here's where the magic happens for fossil hunters. Unlike a landslide or riverbed where remains scatter or erode, a sinkhole's sudden collapse creates a sealed environment. Animals wandering near the edge, whether a prehistoric sloth or a saber-toothed cat, plunge into what becomes their tomb, sheltered from the elements and protected from scavengers. Water plays a double role in this preservation process. In flooded sinkholes, the lack of oxygen halts decomposition, while minerals dissolved in the water gradually replace organic material, transforming bone into stone with astonishing detail. Take the famous Page Ladson sinkhole in Florida, where divers found a 13,000-year-old mastodon tusk so well preserved, tool marks from early humans were still visible on its surface. Or the Dragon Hole in the South China Sea, a blue hole so deep and isolated that sediment layers act like tree rings, recording centuries of climate data alongside rare marine fossils. But not all sinkholes are created equal. The real fossil jackpots occur in areas with just the right recipe: soluble bedrock like limestone or gypsum, consistent water flow to dissolve it, and a climate that supports diverse life above ground. Mexico's Yucatan Peninsula, pockmarked with cenotes, has yielded skeletons of giant ground sloths and prehistoric elephants, while the arid caves of Australia's Nullarbor Plain hold snapshots of marsupial giants lost to time. Scientists even use satellite imagery to spot potential sites. Circular depressions in vegetation or unusual mineral stains can hint at hidden chambers below. What's truly mind-bending is how these formations defy time. In one Alabama sinkhole, researchers found a 30,000-year-old fossilized cricket whose delicate wing veins were still intact. Meanwhile, Wyoming's Natural Trap Cave preserved pronghorn antelope bones so pristine, their DNA could be sequenced, rewriting theories about ice age migrations. Each discovery is a testament to how sinkholes don't just preserve life, they freeze entire moments in Earth's history, giving us whispers from worlds we'd otherwise never know. And with every expedition into these shadowy depths, we're reminded the next great revelation might be waiting just beneath our feet, hidden in plain sight. Some of the most breathtaking time capsules on Earth hide in plain sight, masquerading as ordinary holes in the ground. Take the La Brea tar pits in Los Angeles, a deceptively tranquil stretch of bubbling asphalt that has yielded over 3.5 million fossils, from dire wolves to saber-toothed cats. Unlike typical sinkholes formed by collapsing bedrock, this sticky trap ensnared unsuspecting animals over tens of thousands of years, preserving their bones with eerie perfection. Just one excavation pit here, known as Project 23, disgorged 16,000 specimens in a single decade, including a near-complete Colombian mammoth nicknamed Zed. Then there's Texas's Devil's Sinkhole, a vertical chasm plunging 140 feet into darkness. While its depths seem inhospitable today, they once sheltered extinct species like the flat-headed peccary and the American lion. Paleontologists rappelling into this abyss have uncovered bones so delicate they crumble at a touch, yet here they've endured for millennia, shielded from erosion by the sinkhole's stable microclimate. But for sheer diversity, few sites rival the Yucatan cenotes. These flooded sinkholes, sacred to the ancient Maya, are now proving equally sacred to science. Divers navigating their labyrinthine tunnels have stumbled upon the remains of giant ground sloths, prehistoric elephants, and even human skeletons dating back to the last ice age. The Hoyo Negro cenote delivered one of the most significant finds: Naya, a 12,000-year-old teenage girl whose DNA reshaped our understanding of early human migration into the Americas. Half a world away, China's Chankeng sinkholes, heavenly pits in Mandarin, reveal an entirely different prehistoric tableau. In one Guangxi province sinkhole, researchers discovered Gigantopithecus, an extinct primate standing 10 feet tall, the real-life inspiration for King Kong. Another yielded fossils of ancient pandas, proving these bamboo munchers roamed far beyond their modern habitats. What makes these sites extraordinary isn't just their individual specimens, but how they collectively map forgotten ecosystems. A single Texas sinkhole might snapshot a dry savanna, while a Yucatan cenote preserves a lush jungle, each a pixel in Earth's ever-changing portrait. Perhaps most astonishing is how these sites blend the ancient and the urgent. When Hurricane Harvey flooded Houston, it unearthed a previously unknown sinkhole near the Brazos River, instantly fossil-rich from centuries of hidden accumulation. This duality, permanence and unpredictability, is what keeps scientists returning to these holes in the ground, because somewhere out there, another collapse is imminent, another time capsule sealing shut, waiting for the day we're ready to listen to its stories. Imagine a world where elephants stood 15 feet tall, where sloths the size of modern grizzlies climbed trees, and where big cats wielded fangs longer than steak knives. This wasn't some fantastical realm, it was Earth just 12,000 years ago, and sinkholes have become the unexpected archives of these lost giants, preserving their remains with such clarity, we can almost hear the snap of twigs under their weight. The question isn't just how these megafauna ended up trapped in these geological pits, but what their presence tells us about the landscapes they dominated and why they vanished. Take the American Mastodon, a shaggy behemoth with tusks curved like crescent moons. In Florida's Wakulla Springs, a sinkhole yielded mastodon bones alongside something far more tantalizing, human artifacts. This collision of evidence suggests our ancestors didn't just coexist with these creatures, they may have hunted them, driving them towards sinkholes as natural traps. Picture a group of early humans herding a panicked mastodon toward unstable ground, exploiting the land itself as a weapon. But not all sinkhole entrapments were orchestrated. Some, like the giant ground sloths found in Belize's Akton-Lubulha cave, likely met their fate by sheer accident. These clumsy vegetarians, weighing over a ton, may have ventured too close to a sinkhole's edge while foraging for tender leaves, their bulk sealing their doom in an instant. Yet the real revelation lies in the details etched into these fossils. In South Dakota's Mammoth Site, a sinkhole turned death trap for at least 61 Columbian mammoths, scientists noticed something peculiar. The bones show no signs of butchering, just layers of males, almost all in their prime. This wasn't a hunting ground, it was a tragic watering hole turned lethal. During dry seasons, desperate herds would have gathered here, only for the steep walls to prevent escape once they'd drunk their fill. The site becomes a snapshot of climate crisis, a warning etched in ivory about what happens when resources dwindle. But sinkholes don't just preserve individual tragedies, they freeze entire food chains in action. In Ecuador's Tank Loma, a single asphalt seep trapped an entire Pleistocene menagerie. Dire wolves gnawing on camel bones, saber-toothed cats with milk teeth still intact, even a fossilized wasp's nest clinging to a tree limb. This isn't just a collection of fossils, it's a moment, a single bad day fossilized. The presence of predator and prey alike hints that sinkholes acted as ecological equalizers, claiming hunter and hunted indiscriminately. What makes these finds truly humbling is how they rewrite human history. Before Hoyo Negro revealed Naya, the young woman who fell to her death 13,000 years ago, we assumed early humans avoided these treacherous pits. But her skeleton, lying alongside a fallen saber-toothed cat, suggests our ancestors navigated these landscapes with intimate knowledge, perhaps even harvesting trapped animals. The line between natural history and human legend blurs further in Australia's Nullarbor caves, where Aboriginal oral traditions describe creatures matching long-extinct marsupial lions. Could these stories be ancestral memories of megafauna, passed down through 60 generations? Every giant pulled from these subterranean vaults forces us to reconsider the balance of ancient ecosystems. A single mammoth could topple trees, creating clearings that fostered new plant growth. Giant sloths dispersed seeds across continents in their dung. When these keystone species vanished, whether from human hunting or climate shifts, their absence reshaped the planet itself. Sinkholes, once seen as mere curiosities, now serve as time capsules of this lost equilibrium, holding clues not just to what was, but to what could have been. And as we piece together these fractured histories, we're left to wonder, what giants might we unknowingly walk beside today, destined to become the next chapter in Earth's buried chronicles? While sinkholes have gifted us with astonishing glimpses of prehistoric megafauna, their true power lies in how they've rewritten the story of us, our ancestors, their struggles, and their rituals. Few places illustrate this better than Spain's Sima de los Husos, the Pit of Bones. Hidden deep within the Atapuerca Mountains, this vertical shaft cradles the remains of at least 28 individuals, their bones jumbled together like fragments of a haunting puzzle. These aren't just any remains, they belong to a population that straddled the evolutionary line between early humans and Neanderthals, their skulls displaying heavy brows and robust jaws, yet with brain cases startlingly close to our own. What's chilling isn't just their physical presence, but how they got there. The pit's layout defies simple explanations. There's no evidence of predation or natural disaster. Instead, the bones cluster in a way that suggests deliberate placement. Some researchers argue this might be the earliest known burial site in human history, a dark cathedral where our ancestors returned, generation after generation, to honor their dead. Others propose a grimmer theory, that these individuals were pushed or fell into the abyss, their bodies accumulating over centuries. But here's the twist: among the bones, scientists found a single-hand axe crafted from rose quartz. This lone tool, unmarked by use, feels less like a practical object and more like an offering, a flicker of ritual in the darkness. Half a world away, Mexico's Hoyo Negro cenote tells a different but equally poignant tale. In 2007, divers navigating its submerged chambers discovered the skeleton of a teenage girl, her bones resting beside the remains of a saber-toothed cat. Named Naya, she lived nearly 13,000 years ago, her DNA revealing a direct genetic link to modern Native Americans. Her presence in that watery grave suggests early humans didn't just fear sinkholes. They navigated them, perhaps hunting or seeking refuge in these labyrinthine spaces. The fact that she and the cat perished together hints at a shared desperation, a momentary equality in the face of nature's indifference. But sinkholes don't just preserve bodies, they safeguard the objects that define daily life. In Belize's Acton Tunishil Mucknell Cave, a collapsed chamber revealed ceramic vessels stacked as if for storage, their surfaces etched with fingerprints from the Maya artisans who shaped them. Nearby, calcified remains of ritual sacrifices, adults and children alike, bear witness to ceremonies where sinkholes served as gateways to the underworld. These aren't random burials, they're deliberate acts, blending survival and spirituality. Perhaps most astonishing is how these sites compress time. In South Africa's Rising Star Cave, a sinkhole system dubbed the Dinaldi Chamber yielded 1,500 fossils of Homo naledi, a small-brained species that may have coexisted with early Homo sapiens. The bodies were deliberately placed in the chamber's recesses, a behavior once thought exclusive to modern humans. This discovery shatters assumptions about intelligence and ritual, proving that even our distant cousins grasped concepts of mortality and memory. What emerges from these shadowy vaults isn't just a collection of bones, but a mosaic of human resilience. From Neanderthals returning to the pit of bones across generations, to Maya priests lowering offerings into cenotes, to the unnamed individuals who carved hand axes as tributes, each discovery whispers the same truth: sinkholes weren't just part of the landscape. They were mirrors reflecting our ancestors' deepest fears, hopes, and questions about what lies beyond. And as we sift through these accidental time capsules, we're reminded that the line between past and present is far thinner than the rock separating us from those who came before. One of the most perplexing mysteries in paleontology isn't just what sinkholes preserve, it's how they sometimes scramble the fossil record like a deck of cards. Picture opening a geology textbook only to find pages torn out and rearranged at random. That's the challenge scientists face when confronting sites like Wyoming's Natural Trap Cave, where the bones of Ice Age wolves lie tangled with fragments of creatures twice as old. How does a Jurassic sea creature end up sharing a grave with a mammoth that walked the Earth 100 million years later? The answer may lie in the very forces that create sinkholes: water, time, and the slow dance of shifting rock. Underground rivers act as nature's conveyor belts, carrying bones through labyrinthine tunnels over millennia. A marine reptile skeleton, buried in seabed sediment, could be lifted by rising groundwater and deposited miles inland, only to tumble into a sinkhole that later traps Pleistocene herbivores. This time averaging creates fossil assemblages that defy logic, like Florida's Devil's Den, where ancient camel bones rest beside the remains of creatures that vanished 50 million years before camels evolved. For researchers, these jumbled sites are both frustration and opportunity. While they complicate dating, they also reveal how interconnected Earth systems truly are, linking epochs we once thought entirely separate. The Messel pit in Germany stands as the ultimate testament to this chaos. Declared a UNESCO World Heritage Site for its near-perfect fossils, this collapsed volcanic lake holds Eocene-era bats with stomach contents preserved, early horses the size of terriers, and tropical ferns, all coexisting in a snapshot of a greenhouse world. But drill deeper, and you'll find Cretaceous fish scales mixed into the layers, carried there by ancient currents. What seems like a single moment in time is actually a palimpsest, with nature's eraser smudging the lines between eras. Modern technology is finally untangling these knots. Laser scanning maps sinkhole stratigraphy in 3D, revealing subtle sediment shifts invisible to the naked eye. Chemical analysis of bone isotopes can distinguish local specimens from transported ones, like identifying a foreign accent in a crowd. At South Africa's Cradle of Humankind, researchers even used micro-CT scans to digitally reassemble fossils shattered by millennia of water movement. Each breakthrough peels back another layer of these accidental time capsules, reminding us that the Earth's memory is neither linear nor tidy, but always worth listening to. Beneath the waves, where sunlight fades to an eerie blue twilight, sinkholes guard secrets even more astonishing than their terrestrial counterparts. The Great Blue Hole off Belize's coast plunges 400 feet straight down, its walls lined with stalactites that formed when this cavern was dry land during the last ice age. Today, these submerged voids act as liquid museums, their oxygen-starved depths preserving marine fossils with surreal precision. Divers descending into these abysses don't just find bones, they encounter entire ecosystems frozen in time, from the spiraling shells of extinct ammonites to the dagger-like teeth of megalodon sharks that once ruled these waters. What makes underwater sinkholes uniquely valuable is their layered sediment, which acts like a climate ledger. Each band of silt contains pollen, microorganisms, and chemical signatures that chronicle ancient sea levels, temperatures, and storms. In Florida's Green Banana Hole, researchers extracted sediment cores revealing a dramatic shift 8,000 years ago, a time when rising seas swallowed coastal forests, their drowned tree trunks still rooted vertically in the sinkhole's walls. These submerged archives prove that climate change isn't just a future threat, it's a recurring force that has reshaped life before, but retrieving these records demands extraordinary risks. Technical divers navigating sites like Mexico's Zapote cenote must contend with hydrogen sulfide clouds that turn water opaque and haloclines, layers where fresh and salt water mix, creating disorienting visual distortions. At these depths, equipment failure or nitrogen narcosis can be fatal, yet the rewards justify the peril. In one Bahamas blue hole, divers uncovered the skull of a sawfish species thought extinct for 100 million years, its serrated snout perfectly intact. Another expedition in the Dominican Republic's Padre Nuestro sinkhole found preserved leaves from a prehistoric rainforest, their veins still visible as if plucked yesterday. The irony is that modern climate change now threatens these very time capsules. As oceans warm and acidify, sinkhole sediments dissolve faster, erasing delicate fossils. Rising seas flood coastal caves with turbulent currents, scattering bones that rested undisturbed for millennia. Even tourism poses a danger. Anchor drops and careless divers have shattered fragile stalagmites in Belize's Great Blue Hole, wiping out millennia of mineral-deposited climate data in seconds. Yet there's hope in this race against time. New 3D mapping technologies let scientists scan entire sinkholes without disturbing them, while submersible drones probe depths too dangerous for humans. In Australia's Nullarbor Plain, marine sinkholes have yielded fossils of Thunderbird's massive prehistoric penguins that clarify how species adapted when Antarctica froze over. Each discovery underscores a profound truth. These underwater vaults don't just store the past, they hold clues to our planet's next chapter, written in the language of drowned forests, vanished sharks, and the silent, shifting walls of blue abysses. If you could slice into the side of a sinkhole like a cake, each layer would tell a different story, not just of the creatures that fell in, but of the world they lived in. These sediment bands act like nature's own climate dashboard, preserving everything from ancient pollen grains to microscopic gas bubbles trapped in mineral deposits. Take Florida's Page Ladson sinkhole, where researchers found a 13,000-year-old layer of spruce pollen, a relic from a time when the Sunshine State was cooler, its landscape more akin to modern-day Georgia. Just above it, a sudden shift to oak and grass pollen marks the moment temperatures spiked, a prehistoric preview of the climate volatility we face today. What makes these records so invaluable is their precision. While ice cores from Antarctica offer global snapshots, sinkholes provide hyper-local details, the equivalent of comparing a satellite image to a street view photo. In Mexico's Yucatan cenotes, layers of gypsum crystals formed during droughts alternate with organic rich mud from wet periods, creating a rainfall calendar stretching back 30,000 years. One particularly stark band corresponds with the collapse of the Maya civilization, its cities abandoned as crops failed under relentless dry spells. It's a haunting parallel to modern water crises, written in stone and mud. But the real game changer lies in the isotopes' chemical signatures locked inside fossilized teeth and shells. By measuring oxygen isotopes in Mastodon tusks from Ohio's Sheridan Cave, scientists reconstructed seasonal rainfall patterns with startling accuracy. The tusks' growth rings, much like tree rings, revealed that these giants endured increasingly erratic monsoons before vanishing, a warning etched in ivory about ecosystems pushed past their limits. Even more remarkably, pollen grains preserved in Wyoming's Natural Trap Cave show how alpine flowers migrated uphill during warm periods, a botanical blueprint for how modern plants might adapt to rising temperatures. Perhaps no sinkhole underscores this climate detective work better than Romania's Movile Cave. Sealed off for 5.5 million years, its toxic air and sulfur-rich waters preserved an alien world where bacteria derive energy from chemicals rather than sunlight. While not a traditional climate archive, Movile's isolation makes it a controlled experiment in survival, proof that life adapts in the most hostile conditions. As modern temperatures climb, these sinkhole time capsules remind us that change isn't new, but the speed at which it's happening is unprecedented. And buried within their layers might just be the playbook for resilience, written by species that weathered Earth's past upheavals, if we're willing to dig deep enough to read it. The Vero Beach sinkhole in Florida might look like any other water-filled depression at first glance, but what lies beneath its murky depths has divided scientists for over a century. In 1916, construction workers excavating the site uncovered something extraordinary: mastodon bones mingled with what appeared to be human skeletal remains and crude stone tools. The problem: the layer where they were found dated back nearly 14,000 years, a time when mainstream archaeology insisted humans hadn't yet reached North America. Skeptics immediately cried foul, accusing the discoverers of misidentifying animal bones or careless excavation. But the controversy only deepened when modern re-examinations using advanced dating techniques confirmed the age of the mastodon bones and the human-like femur found beside them. Then there's the case of California's Calaveras skull, allegedly pulled from a gold mine sinkhole in 1866. The skull, initially dismissed as a hoax for its suspiciously modern features, was later found to have traces of minerals consistent with ancient burial conditions. While most researchers still attribute it to a prank or accidental mixing of layers, a stubborn minority points to its oddly thick cranial bones, a trait seen in some Paleo-American remains, as evidence we might be missing a chapter in human history. But the real head-scratchers come from sinkholes that seem to break the rules of geology itself. In Mexico's Huitlaco site, stone tools were found beneath a volcanic ash layer dated to 250,000 years, a time when Homo sapiens weren't supposed to exist anywhere on Earth. The lead archaeologist faced professional ridicule, though later studies confirmed the dating. Similarly, Brazil's Pedra Furada caves yielded charcoal from ancient hearths alongside tools in layers suggesting human presence over 60,000 years ago, contradicting the dominant Clovis-first model of American settlement. What makes these disputed finds so tantalizing is how they cluster around water sources, sinkholes, cenotes, and submerged caves, places where early humans would have congregated. If even one of these anomalies proves genuine, it forces us to reconsider not just timelines but the very routes our ancestors took. Could seafaring groups have skirted ice sheets much earlier than we thought? Did an unknown hominin species leave traces before vanishing? The sinkholes keeping these secrets aren't just challenging textbooks, they're daring us to rewrite them. Buried beneath Nebraska's rolling plains, a spiral-shaped sinkhole known as the Devil's Corkscrew held a mystery that baffled scientists for decades. These strange, twisting formations weren't geological quirks. They were the fossilized burrows of Paleocastor, an ancient beaver unlike anything alive today. Imagine a creature the size of a modern woodchuck, with powerful claws evolved not for swimming, but for digging intricate corkscrew tunnels deep into the earth. Before these sinkholes gave up their secrets, we had no idea such an architect ever existed. The discovery didn't just add a new branch to the beaver family tree, it revealed an entire lost chapter of evolutionary experimentation, where rodents filled ecological niches we'd never imagined. Half a world away, Australia's Nullarbor Plain sinkholes delivered an even more startling resurrection. Deep in these limestone pits, researchers unearthed the skull of Thylacoleo, a marsupial lion with bolt-cutter jaws and retractable claws like a cat's. This wasn't some oversized kangaroo, it was a hypercarnivore that ambushed prey from trees, its teeth specialized for slicing rather than crushing. For over a century, Thylacoleo existed only in fragmented fossils and Aboriginal oral histories, described as a devil creature that dragged victims into the treetops. The sinkhole specimens changed everything, preserving complete skeletons that showed how this predator moved, hunted, and ultimately vanished when human arrival and climate change reshaped the continent. What makes these sinkhole discoveries so revolutionary isn't just the creatures themselves, it's how they rewrite entire ecosystems. Paleocasters' spiral burrows, some plunging 10 feet straight down before curving horizontally, suggest a social structure far more complex than modern beavers. Soil analysis around the burrows reveals these sinkholes were once oases in a drying landscape. They're moisture-sustaining plants that anchored entire food webs. Similarly, Thylacolio's bones found alongside giant kangaroos and wombats the size of rhinos paint Australia as a land of bizarre megafauna, a parallel universe where marsupials evolved to fill every predatory role. Now science stands on the brink of an even more dramatic resurrection. Advances in DNA extraction are allowing researchers to sequence genetic material from sinkhole fossils previously considered too degraded. In Tennessee's Gray fossil site, a sinkhole-preserved tapir bone yielded mitochondrial DNA revealing a previously unknown Ice Age lineage. The implications are staggering. If we can recover viable nuclei from specimens like Thylacolio or the mastodons of Florida's Wakulla Springs, do extinction shifts from sci-fi fantasy to tangible possibility? The ethical debates are fierce, of course. Should we revive species whose habitats vanished millennia ago? Could reintroducing Paleocasters' soil-aerating burrows help combat modern desertification? These sinkholes don't just hold bones, they hold choices, forcing us to confront how much of the past we dare reclaim. One thing's certain, every shovel of sediment removed from these natural time capsules brings us closer to answering whether extinction is truly forever, or just a pause in life's endless experimentation. One ordinary afternoon in Kentucky, a coal miner named Jay Wright was digging through a collapsed sinkhole when his shovel struck something unmistakably not coal, rows of razor-sharp teeth embedded in gray stone. What he'd uncovered turned out to be the nearly intact skeleton of a Savodus striatus, a shark that patrolled ancient oceans 330 million years ago. Wright's accidental discovery, now nicknamed the minehole shark, highlights a truth that professional paleontologists know well. Some of Earth's most astonishing fossils aren't found by scientists in remote deserts, but by everyday people going about their lives. Consider the Florida landscaper who spotted a strange rock while digging a pool, only to realize it was the fossilized jaw of a giant armadillo relative called a glyptodont. Or the Utah rancher who noticed odd shapes in a creek bed, leading to the revelation of a Pleistocene-era mammoth graveyard. These aren't just lucky breaks, they're reminders that sinkholes conceal their treasures without prejudice, waiting for anyone observant enough to look twice. But with great discovery comes great responsibility. The same accessibility that allows amateurs to make groundbreaking finds also leaves fossils vulnerable to looters armed with hammers and eBay accounts. In one heartbreaking case, a Missouri sinkhole that held perfectly preserved Ice Age peccary skeletons was stripped bare by collectors before scientists could document it. That's why programs like Florida's Fossil Finder initiative now train farmers, construction crews, and even school kids to recognize fossils and report them properly. Participants learn to photograph finds in situ, note GPS coordinates, and avoid damaging delicate specimens, turning chance encounters into citizen science. The debate over amateur involvement isn't black and white. While some academics initially bristled at untrained hands disturbing sites, collaborations like Kentucky's Shark Tooth Project have proven how vital locals are. After Wright's shark discovery, paleontologists worked with miners to recover over 100 additional specimens from the same sinkhole, many donated by workers who'd kept them as curios for years. This shift reflects a growing understanding. Fossil preservation isn't just about locking away the past, it's about empowering communities to become stewards of their own geological heritage. Yet for every success story, ethical gray areas persist. Should a farmer who finds a mastodon skull on their land be allowed to sell it? Can tourist-friendly, dig your own fossil, sinkholes balance education with exploitation? The answers hinge on recognizing that these bones aren't just relics, they're pieces of a puzzle we're still assembling, one accidental discovery at a time. And sometimes the most important paleontological tool isn't a brush or a PhD, but a pair of curious eyes and the willingness to say, wait, that doesn't look right. Modern sinkhole exploration has entered a renaissance, not with pickaxes and shovels, but with technology so advanced it feels like science fiction. LiDAR light detection and ranging has become the paleontologist's X-ray vision, revealing hidden subterranean chambers beneath dense jungle canopies or urban sprawl. By pulsing laser beams from aircraft, researchers can map the ground's surface with centimeter precision, spotting subtle depressions that betray a sinkhole's presence long before the Earth gives way. In Mexico's Yucatan Peninsula, this technique uncovered a sprawling network of interconnected cenotes, some holding Mayan artifacts alongside prehistoric fossils, rewriting our understanding of both human and natural history. But the real game changer happens beneath the surface. Ground-penetrating radar sends electromagnetic pulses into the Earth, painting a picture of voids and sediment layers without a single shovel strike. When combined with LiDAR data, it's like having a live blueprint of the underground, one that recently helped scientists in Wyoming's Bighorn Basin locate a fossil-packed sinkhole beneath a busy hiking trail before erosion could claim it. For sites too treacherous to explore, drones now swoop in as high-tech scouts. Equipped with thermal cameras and multispectral sensors, they map unstable terrain where human footsteps could trigger collapse. In Australia's Nullarbor Plain, drone footage revealed the entrance to a previously unknown cave system, its floor littered with the bones of extinct marsupial lions. Meanwhile, back in labs, 3D printing technology breathes new life into fragile specimens. Fossilized bones too delicate to handle are scanned layer by layer, then recreated in durable resin, allowing researchers worldwide to study perfect replicas without risking the originals. The most astonishing breakthroughs, however, come from medical technology borrowed from hospitals. CT scanners originally designed for human patients now peer inside stone-encased fossils, revealing soft tissues once thought lost to time. In South Dakota, this technique exposed the preserved brain matter of a 55-million-year-old primate, its neural folds visible as if it had perished yesterday. Similarly, synchrotron imaging, a particle accelerator adapted for paleontology, has detected traces of pigments in fossilized feathers, letting us reconstruct the vibrant hues of dinosaurs that once roamed sinkhole-riddled landscapes. Projects like the virtual sinkhole push these innovations further, transforming entire sites into immersive digital experiences. Using photogrammetry, lasers, and drone footage, researchers stitch together 3D models so detailed, scientists can walk through submerged cenotes or handle holographic fossils from continents away. This isn't just about convenience, it's democratizing discovery, letting experts from Mongolia to Brazil collaborate in real time on shared virtual digs. Now, artificial intelligence is poised to revolutionize the hunt itself. Machine learning algorithms digest geological surveys, climate data, and fossil records to predict where undiscovered sinkholes might hide troves of fossils. Early tests in Florida correctly flagged 3 new sites based solely on subtle patterns in vegetation and soil moisture, patterns invisible to the human eye. As these tools grow sharper, they promise to unlock sinkholes we'd never think to explore, revealing chapters of Earth's story we didn't even know were missing. Long before geologists could explain the sudden collapses in the Earth's surface, ancient cultures wove intricate myths around these mysterious chasms, not as accidents of nature, but as deliberate doorways to other realms. The Maya didn't just fear their cenotes, they revered them as sacred portals to Xibalba, the underworld where gods demanded sacrifices. Archaeologists diving into these flooded sinkholes have found chilling evidence of these beliefs: golden artifacts, jade masks, and even human remains arranged with ceremonial precision. One particularly haunting discovery in the sacred cenote at Chichen Itza revealed skeletons with bound hands, their bones resting beside offerings of carved figurines, a stark testament to how sinkholes blurred the line between the physical and spiritual worlds. Half a world away, Aboriginal Australian legends describe dreamtime beings who shaped the land before retreating into waterholes, their presence still felt in the whispers of wind through sinkhole entrances. These stories take on eerie resonance when you consider that many of these sites later yielded fossils of megafauna like Diprotodon, a wombat-like giant that matches descriptions of mythic creatures said to lurk in the depths. Could these oral traditions be ancestral memories of encounters with long-extinct animals? The Gunai people of Victoria tell of a monstrous water-dwelling beast called the bunyip, its bellowing cries echoing from sinkholes, a description that aligns uncannily with reconstructions of the marsupial lion Thylacoleo, whose fossils are common in the region's limestone pits. European folklore is no less rich with sinkhole lore. In Slovenia, the legend of the lindworm dragon tells of a serpentine beast that carved out subterranean lairs before drowning in its own floods. A tale that might explain the discovery of cave bear bones in local sinkholes, their massive skulls mistaken for dragon remains. Similarly, Norse sagas describe bottomless pits like the one at Vidjulmir, where heroes descended to confront giants. Modern excavations there uncovered Ice Age hyena dens, their bones gnawed in ways that could easily fuel tales of monstrous feasts. What's most fascinating isn't just how these myths mirror reality, but how they've occasionally led scientists to real discoveries. In the 1920s, a team in Mexico followed local Huastec legends of a cave of bones to a previously unknown sinkhole packed with Pleistocene fossils. More recently, Navajo accounts of ant people who sheltered humanity during cataclysms guided researchers to Arizona's Antelope Cave, where they found evidence of ancient floods and a trove of fossilized insects. These aren't just coincidences, they're proof that oral traditions often encode observational wisdom passed down through generations. Yet the relationship between myth and science isn't one-sided. As paleontologists decode these stories, they're also confronting uncomfortable questions. Should sacred cenotes be disturbed if descendants still consider them spiritual sites? Can fossil hunting coexist with respecting indigenous beliefs? The answers aren't simple, but the dialogue itself reveals something profound. Whether viewed through the lens of science or storytelling, sinkholes have always been more than holes in the ground. They're mirrors reflecting humanity's deepest wonder and our timeless urge to explain the unexplainable. Descending into a sinkhole isn't like stepping into a museum. It's more like entering a volatile time capsule rigged with natural booby traps. Take Wyoming's Natural Trap Cave, where researchers must rappel down an 80-foot vertical shaft just to reach the fossil-rich floor. One misstep on those slick limestone walls, and you're joining the very specimens you came to study. But the real danger often lurks unseen. In Florida's underwater caves, hydrogen sulfide gas, a byproduct of decomposing organic matter, forms invisible clouds that can paralyze a diver's nervous system at just 2 breaths. And then there's the ever-present threat of collapse. In 2014, veteran paleontologist Brent Breithaupt tragically learned this lesson when a sinkhole wall gave way during a survey near Douglas, Wyoming, burying him under tons of rubble before his team could react. Yet even when the ground holds firm, sinkholes wage psychological warfare. The isolation is absolute: no cell signals, no quick exits, just suffocating darkness broken only by headlamps. Divers in Mexico's cenotes describe the disorientation of haloclines, where fresh and saltwater layers create surreal mirages that make up look like down. Add to that the bone-chilling cold of groundwater, which can induce hypothermia even in tropical climates, and you begin to understand why these expeditions resemble military operations more than scientific fieldwork. Teams deploy backup oxygen tanks along their route, run communication lines to the surface, and practice emergency drills for everything from regulator failures to sudden silt-outs that reduce visibility to zero. Some sites remain unconquerable despite every technological advantage. China's Zhaozhai-Tankeng, the heavenly pit, drops over 2,000 feet straight down, its lower reaches choked with toxic levels of carbon dioxide from decaying vegetation. Then there's South Africa's cradle of humankind caves, where narrow passages twist like pretzels, forcing researchers to crawl for hours with sediment samples clutched in their teeth. The risk-reward calculus becomes starkly personal in these environments. Is retrieving a potentially groundbreaking fossil worth weeks on a ventilator or worse? That's why modern paleontology increasingly relies on robotic proxies. Remotely operated vehicles equipped with cameras and delicate grippers now probe the most lethal sinkholes, like Louisiana's Island of Doom, where shifting sediments swallow equipment whole. Laser scanners create 3D maps from safe distances, while AI algorithms predict instability patterns in real time. Yet for all these advances, some discoveries still demand human hands. When divers in Hoyo Negro gently lifted the skull of Naya, the 12,000-year-old girl who rewrote migration theories, they did so knowing one errant fin kick could have shattered her fragile bones into irrecoverable fragments. Perhaps the greatest danger isn't physical at all, but ethical. Every extraction risks damaging the very context that makes fossils meaningful. A mastodon tibia hauled up without documenting its position relative to nearby seeds or tool fragments loses half its story. That's why the boldest explorers are often the most cautious, measuring each movement against a simple question: will this action preserve history or erase it? The answer determines who gets to play time traveler and who becomes a cautionary tale. Beneath the scientific wonder of sinkhole fossils lies a contentious battleground where ownership, profit, and preservation collide. Take the case of Sioux, the most complete Tyrannosaurus rex skeleton ever found, unearthed from a South Dakota ranch in 1990. What should have been a celebration of paleontology quickly spiraled into a legal war: landowner versus excavator, federal agents seizing the bones, and a high-stakes auction that finally landed the fossil at Chicago's Field Museum for $8 million. This wasn't just about one dinosaur, it exposed the murky ethics of who gets to claim the past. The law often sides with property rights, meaning a rancher can sell fossils dug from their land to the highest bidder. In Montana's Hell Creek Formation, private auctions regularly see dinosaur skeletons go for six figures, snapped up by wealthy collectors who may never share them with researchers. But when those fossils come from sinkholes, nature's communal vaults, the debate intensifies. Unlike a riverbed or desert where fossils scatter randomly, sinkholes concentrate specimens like time capsules, their contextual layers crucial to scientific understanding. Lose that context to a private sale, and you're not just losing bones, you're erasing chapters of ecological history. Countries approach this dilemma wildly differently. Brazil treats fossils as national patrimony, banning commercial trade entirely. Meanwhile, in the United States, a legal gray area allows dealers to export fossils from private land, even as museums scramble to match billionaire bids. The tension peaks with sinkhole discoveries, where a single site might hold mastodon bones alongside human artifacts, raising questions. If a fossilized tool is found on private property, does it belong to archaeology or the landowner? Ethical lines blur further when profit enters the picture. Commercial excavators often use dynamite and bulldozers to reach fossils quickly, destroying stratigraphic clues that reveal age and environment. In Florida's Osceola River sinkholes, delicate human artifacts from Paleo-Indian sites have been shattered by treasure hunters seeking mammoth tusks. Some argue regulated fossil trading could fund preservation, pointing to Australia's opalized dinosaur bones, where miners and scientists collaborate. But when a Moroccan dealer sold a sinkhole-preserved Spinosaurus skeleton to an anonymous buyer in 2018, it vanished from study, possibly forever. Legal shifts are slowly recognizing fossils as public heritage. Mongolia's aggressive repatriation campaign has reclaimed hundreds of smuggled specimens, including sinkhole-preserved raptors auctioned in New York. The United States Paleontological Resources Preservation Act now requires permits for excavation on federal land, though private property remains a free-for-all. Perhaps the boldest experiment is in Canada, where Alberta's Royal Tyrrell Museum partners with ranchers. Landowners get a cut of museum profits while fossils stay in public trust. As sinkholes keep yielding breakthroughs from Ice Age DNA to evidence of early human migrations, their fossils force us to confront an uncomfortable truth. These aren't just commodities or curios, they're puzzle pieces in the story of life itself. And once a sinkhole's secrets are sold to the highest bidder, that story may never be fully told. The world of sinkhole fossils isn't just a battleground for legal ownership, it's also a hunting ground for some of the most sophisticated hoaxes in paleontology. Picture a fossil so perfect it seems too good to be true, a feathered dinosaur with wings outstretched, its delicate bones preserved in stunning detail. That's exactly what collectors thought in 2020 when the so-called Archaeoraptor surfaced, a specimen hailed as the missing link between dinosaurs and birds. The fossil fetched millions at auction before scientists uncovered the truth. It was an elaborate Frankenstein's monster, cobbled together from at least 5 different species with glue and cleverly placed sediment. The forgers had exploited sinkholes' reputation as pristine time capsules, knowing their dark, mineral-rich environments could mask tampering. What makes sinkholes such fertile ground for fakes? It's the same thing that makes them invaluable to science, their isolation. Unlike riverbeds or deserts where fossils scatter and erode, sinkholes preserve specimens with almost laboratory-like conditions. This very perfection becomes a double-edged sword. Fraudsters can artificially age modern bones by soaking them in acidic water to mimic mineral staining, or press genuine fragments into synthetic matrices to create impossible hybrids. One notorious case in China involved a dealer selling unidentified prehistoric mammals that turned out to be goat bones strategically placed in a collapsed limestone fissure. Detecting these deceptions requires forensic-level scrutiny. Paleontologists now wield tools like scanning electron microscopes to examine bone microstructure. Real fossils show a telltale pattern of mineralization, while fakes often reveal modern tool marks or inconsistent sediment adhesion. Chemical tests can unmask glue or paint invisible to the naked eye, and CT scans expose internal inconsistencies, like a skull cavity that doesn't match the vertebrae. Even the surrounding sediment gets analyzed. Genuine sinkhole fossils have specific mineral signatures forged over millennia, impossible to replicate in a workshop. But the most reliable red flag might be the stories themselves. Authentic sinkhole discoveries rarely fit tidy narratives. Real fossils are messy, fragmented, distorted, or missing key elements. When a specimen checks every box of scientific wish fulfillment, like the infamous dragon sinkhole hoax in Indonesia that conveniently held 3 perfectly preserved, never-before-seen species, skepticism is warranted. The scientific community learned this the hard way after the Piltdown Man scandal, where a fake early human skull was planted in a gravel pit, derailing research for decades. Yet for every exposed fraud, there's a deeper lesson about human nature. The same hunger for discovery that drives scientists to rappel into deadly sinkholes also fuels the black market's demand for sensational finds. It's a reminder that in the shadows where geology meets greed, the most carefully preserved relics aren't always the bones but the lies we bury with them. The moment a fossil is lifted from the protective darkness of a sinkhole, it begins a race against time. After spending thousands of years cocooned in stable, mineral-rich environments, these relics face an invisible enemy: oxygen. The very air that sustains us becomes a corrosive force, reacting with ancient bone and turning sturdy specimens into fragile husks. For conservators, the first line of defense is often paraloid, a clear acrylic resin painstakingly brushed onto surfaces to seal microscopic pores. At the Florida Museum of Natural History, this technique saved a 13,000-year-old mastodon tusk from crumbling to dust, its delicate surface still bearing tool marks left by Ice Age hunters. But preservation isn't just about chemistry, it's about storytelling. Some institutions, like Mexico's Museo del Desierto, have abandoned traditional glass cases altogether. Instead, they've recreated entire sinkhole environments within their galleries, complete with artificial sediment layers and humidity-controlled lighting. Visitors peer into these immersive dioramas as if standing on the edge of the original pit, watching a giant ground sloth's bones emerge exactly where they were discovered. This approach does more than protect fossils. It preserves their context, allowing us to see not just the bones, but the story of their final moments. Yet for every specimen displayed with such care, countless others languish in storage limbo. Budget constraints force many museums to keep fossils in makeshift conditions, wrapped in acid-free paper and tucked into industrial shelving. A 2019 survey of regional collections revealed dire realities. A saber-toothed cat skull stored next to a leaking pipe, a basket of delicate rodent bones crushed under misplaced rock samples. The problem isn't neglect but sheer volume. Sinkholes often yield hundreds of fossils at once, overwhelming underfunded institutions. Emerging technologies offer hope on this front. Nanoparticle stabilization, initially developed for aerospace engineering, is now being tested on fossils from Texas's Devil's Sinkhole. By infusing bone with silica nanoparticles, researchers create an internal scaffold that reinforces crumbling structures without altering their appearance. Meanwhile, 3-dimensional laser scanning allows digital preservation even when physical conservation isn't possible. When rising groundwater threatened a cache of prehistoric peccary bones in a Belizean cave, archaeologists documented every specimen down to micron-level detail, ensuring their scientific value endures even if the originals disintegrate. The stakes extend beyond academia. In Australia's Naracoorte caves, indigenous communities collaborate with conservators to treat fossils using traditional plant-based sealants, blending ancestral knowledge with modern science. This partnership recognizes that sinkhole fossils aren't just data points, they're cultural touchstones, connecting living communities to landscapes their ancestors once shared with megafauna. As climate change accelerates decay rates worldwide, these fragile threads between past and present may depend on our ability to innovate before time runs out. Climate change has become an unexpected archaeologist, digging up the past while simultaneously erasing it. As global temperatures climb, permafrost that's remained frozen for millennia is thawing at alarming rates, cracking open the earth like a brittle eggshell. In Siberia, this process has exposed entire Ice Age landscapes, complete with woolly mammoth tusks jutting from the mud like nature's own museum exhibits. But this revelation comes at a cost. The same warmth that melts the ice also jumpstarts decomposition, turning once pristine fossils into sludge within months. It's a cruel irony. After being preserved for 40,000 years, these specimens are vanishing just as we discover them. Nowhere is this paradox more visible than Florida's porous limestone bedrock. Rising sea levels are pushing salt water into freshwater aquifers, creating a corrosive cocktail that dissolves ancient bone faster than scientists can catalog it. At the Page-Ladson sinkhole, divers recently watched helplessly as a 13,000-year-old mastodon rib crumbled to dust before their cameras, its surface pitted by acidic water that would have been neutral just decades ago. Meanwhile, droughts in Texas's Devil's Sinkhole region have dried out protective sediment layers, leaving fossils exposed to scorching sun and wind erosion. What took nature 15,000 years to preserve, climate change can destroy in a single season. The clock is ticking for sites like Belize's Blue Hole, where ocean acidification is eating away at submerged megafauna skeletons. Marine archaeologists have documented parrotfish gnawing on fossilized sloth bones, their teeth etching grooves into specimens that survived ice ages only to fall prey to ecological imbalance. Even sinkholes far from coasts aren't safe. In Australia's Nullarbor Plain, increasing rainfall frequency, a side effect of shifting weather patterns, is flooding caves that stayed dry for 80,000 years, washing delicate fossils into unrecoverable fragments. Yet amid this crisis, technology offers a lifeline. Teams are deploying 3D laser scanners to create digital twins of at-risk fossils, preserving every crack and groove in millimeter-perfect detail. At Wyoming's Natural Trap Cave, scientists coated fragile bones with biodegradable silica nanoparticles, buying precious time for study before the originals disintegrate. Other projects, like the Global Sinkhole Heritage Initiative, use AI to predict which sites will degrade fastest, directing resources to the most urgent rescues. The stakes transcend paleontology. These sinkholes are climate archives, their layers recording thousands of years of atmospheric changes. When a Florida cenote's sediment layers dissolve, we're not just losing mastodon bones, we're erasing the very data that could help us understand today's warming world. It's a race where every salvaged fossil is both a relic of the past and a warning for the future, proving that sometimes to move forward, we must first save what's been left behind. Deep in the labyrinthine chambers of Australia's Naracoorte caves, paleontologists sift through layers of sediment packed with bones, not just the usual megafauna like Thylacoleo or giant kangaroos, but fragments that defy classification. Curved ribs too thick for any known marsupial, jawbones with teeth arranged in patterns unseen in modern or fossil records, and strangely elongated limb bones that suggest creatures moving in ways we can't yet reconstruct. These aren't just puzzles, they're ghostly echoes of evolutionary paths that left no living descendants. Nearby, a sinkhole dubbed the Bone Crypt holds over 2,000 specimens, yet nearly a third remain unidentified, their labels simply reading Morphotype A or Unknown Carnivore. The frustration is palpable among researchers, but so is the thrill. Every unclassified bone could rewrite entire chapters of natural history. Then there's Romania's Movile Cave, sealed for 5 million years until its discovery in 1986. Here, in the sulfur-tinged darkness, scientists found skulls with elongated craniums and hollow eye sockets unlike any vertebrate on record. Initial theories suggested extreme adaptations to the cave's toxic environment, perhaps a sightless predator with heightened other senses. But DNA analysis complicated the story, revealing genetic markers that don't align with known evolutionary trees. Are these deformities caused by isolation and inbreeding, or evidence of a lineage that branched off and vanished without a trace? The cave's acidic air has preserved soft tissues rarely seen in fossils, including what might be nerve endings around the skull's bases, hinting at sensory organs we've never documented. The mystery deepens in Mexico's Yucatan, where divers exploring the Sac-Act uncave system stumbled upon a chamber nicknamed the Nursery. Among the expected remains of Ice Age horses and giant sloths lay dozens of tiny, delicate skeletons, each no longer than a human hand. At first glance, they resembled primates, but the bone density and joint structures were all wrong, too light for tree dwellers, yet with claws too robust for ground-based foraging. Radiocarbon dating placed them squarely in the Pleistocene, yet they match no known species from that era. Some researchers speculate they could be a dwarfed island species washed into the sinkhole during a hurricane, while others argue they represent an entirely new branch of mammals. What makes these unsolved cases so tantalizing is how they blur the line between anomaly and revelation. In Alabama's Neversink pit, explorers recovered a fossilized ball of interlocked animal bones, mastodon ribs fused with the vertebrae of a large felid, all encased in mineral deposits. Was this a freakish geological accident, or evidence of a prehistoric predator's larder, where prey was dragged and stacked in a ritualistic manner? The site's lead researcher admits it could be either, or something else entirely. Now, new technologies are offering fresh hope for cracking these cold cases. At Naracoorte, AI algorithms cross-reference unidentified bones with global fossil databases, flagging even faint similarities. In Movile, synchrotron imaging maps skull interiors at subcellular levels, searching for clues in bone density patterns. And in the Yucatan, underwater laser scanners create 3D models of the nursery skeletons, allowing scientists worldwide to manipulate digital replicas in real time. The truth is, these sinkholes aren't just hiding fossils, they're guarding stories. Stories of creatures that thrived and vanished without leaving a trace elsewhere, of evolutionary experiments erased by time's selective hand. And with every unidentified bone, every unclassified skull, they whisper the same tantalizing question: how much of Earth's history remains buried, waiting for the right explorer, the right tool, the right moment to finally give up its secrets? The future of sinkhole paleontology isn't just about digging deeper, it's about seeing through stone itself. Picture a fleet of robotic drones, no larger than your hand, navigating flooded cenotes with the precision of a school of fish. These aren't science fiction. Prototypes already exist, equipped with microsonar that maps crevices too narrow for human divers, and lasers that detect fossilized bone beneath layers of sediment without ever touching them. Over in Switzerland, engineers are testing quantum gravity sensors capable of detecting underground voids with pinpoint accuracy, technology that could soon reveal hidden chambers beneath the Yucatan's jungles or Wyoming's badlands from the safety of a helicopter. But the real revolution lies in artificial intelligence. Machine learning algorithms, trained on thousands of known sinkhole fossils, can now predict where undiscovered specimens might lie based on subtle patterns in rock formations or vegetation. In the Bahamas, AI recently flagged a submerged blue hole that had been dismissed as empty until divers found an intact skeleton of a Caribbean monk seal, a species extinct for half a century. These tools don't just locate fossils, they reconstruct entire ecosystems by cross-referencing pollen samples, mineral deposits, and bone fragments. AI models can simulate ancient environments down to the types of plants that grew at the edge of a sinkhole 50,000 years ago. Some of the most exciting prospects come from projects aiming to scan Earth's entire karst landscape. Initiatives like the Global Karst Archive combine satellite imagery, LiDAR, and ground-penetrating radar to create a 3D atlas of every known limestone region. Early scans have already identified over 200 previously undocumented sinkholes in Mexico alone, some showing thermal anomalies suggesting hidden water-filled chambers. The goal, a digital map so detailed, researchers could explore potential sites virtually before committing to risky expeditions. Then there's the promise of non-invasive extraction. Imagine a laser that vaporizes sediment molecule by molecule, freeing a fossil without physical contact, or a biodegradable foam that stabilizes crumbling bones in situ until they can be safely transported. These technologies aren't just conveniences, they're ethical necessities. Many sinkholes hold cultural significance for indigenous communities, and traditional excavation can feel like violation rather than discovery. New methods aim to study without disturbing, honoring both science and heritage. Leading experts whisper about even grander possibilities. Dr. Elena Mironova of the Moscow Speleological Institute dreams of finding a sealed ice age sinkhole in Siberia, its permafrost-locked contents preserving woolly rhinoceros DNA intact. Meanwhile, Dr. Javier Ortega in Belize is convinced the next Naya-like human skeleton lies in an uncharted cenote, waiting to rewrite the peopling of the Americas. And then there's the wild card, the chance that somewhere in one of Earth's unexplored voids lies a fossil so bizarre it defies all existing classifications. The irony is delicious. After centuries of brute force digging, the future of sinkhole paleontology may hinge on touching less, not more, on listening to the whispers of technology instead of the crunch of pickaxes. And if the past is any guide, the most astonishing discoveries won't come from where we're looking, but from the shadows we've yet to illuminate. Dr. Elena Vasquez still remembers the moment her headlamp flickered over the wing bone, not fossilized to dull stone, but shimmering with a crystalline sheen, as if the pterosaur had been dipped in glass. We'd been mapping this sinkhole in Mexico's Sierra Madre for weeks. She recalls, her voice echoing slightly over the video call from a field camp. Then the laser scanner pinged, this weird density reading 12 meters down. Next thing I know, I'm dangling on a rope, brushing sediment off what turned out to be the most complete aerosaur skeleton ever found in the Americas. What makes the crystal sinkhole pterosaur so extraordinary isn't just its near-perfect articulation. The delicate finger bones supporting wings spanning 20 feet still folded as if in mid-flight, but how it got there. This wasn't a carcass washed into a cave, Vasquez explains. The positioning suggests the animal was alive when it plunged through a thin limestone ceiling, possibly during a storm. The mineral-rich water that flooded the chamber later preserved every tendon and keel bone in quartz like nature's own 3D printer. The discovery came at a cost. Her team spent 3 months battling toxic hydrogen sulfide fumes rising from the sinkhole's depths, forcing them to work in 90-minute shifts between air tank swaps. One researcher suffered temporary paralysis after brushing against a stalactite coated in caustic gypsum crystals. You learn to respect sinkholes, Vasquez laughs. They're not just holes, they're living systems breathing out gases, shifting sediments, rewriting their own geology daily. One afternoon, we returned to find our main excavation tunnel had collapsed overnight. All our gear was buried under 6 tons of rock. Modern technology has transformed these risks into calculated gambles. Where early paleontologists relied on picks and intuition, Vasquez's team deploys LiDAR drones to model unstable ceilings before setting foot inside. Their laser scanners, adapted from oil industry survey tools, can detect fossils through 10 feet of sediment by measuring density variations. It's like playing thermal battleship, she says, pulling up a scan of the pterosaur site. The bones glow neon orange against blue rock, their outlines razor-sharp despite being invisible to the naked eye. Yet for all the high-tech tools, Vasquez insists the real magic lies in Sinkhole's capriciousness. Last year, we laser-mapped a collapsed cave in Belize for months, convinced it held Pleistocene sloths. Turned out to be a jaguar den from the 1940s, complete with Coca-Cola bottles. Then, just as we packed up, a grad student spotted a single human molar embedded in the wall. DNA tests linked it to a Paleo-Indian girl who lived there 13,000 years earlier. She leans forward, eyes bright. That's the thing about sinkholes, they're time capsules, but the labels are always wrong. You think you're digging up a mammoth and find a Maya sacrifice. Or you're chasing a rumor of golden artifacts and stumble onto a new branch of the primate family tree. The conversation turns somber when discussing threats beyond collapsing walls. Looters armed with social media coordinates now target vulnerable sites, sometimes dynamiting sinkholes to reach fossils faster. Vasquez recounts arriving at a Yucatan cenote to find a pristine saber-toothed cat skull, shattered by sledgehammers, only the teeth stolen for sale on the black market. We're racing against climate change too, she adds. Rising sea levels are acidifying coastal sinkholes, dissolving bones that survived 50,000 years in perfect condition. Last month, we pulled a giant armadillo shell from a Florida blue hole that crumbled like wet cardboard in our hands. Her solution, a radical transparency initiative where local communities co-manage discoveries. At the Crystal Sinkhole, Maya elders now monitor the site using training from Vasquez's team, blending traditional knowledge with 3D scanning apps. They noticed mineral deposits we'd overlooked, led us to 2 more pterosaurs deeper in the system, she says. When people see themselves as guardians rather than bystanders, everyone wins. As the interview winds down, Vasquez shares a photo from the pterosaurs unveiling at Mexico City's Museo de Paleontology. The bones seem to glow under the lights, their crystalline sheen catching every hue. That's why we crawl through mud and poison gas, she murmurs, for the moments when the past stops being rock and becomes a living thing again. When you're staring into the eye socket of a creature that soared over dinosaurs, and suddenly, for one heartbeat, time doesn't matter at all. The camera shakes slightly, whether from the desert wind or her grip tightening, it's hard to say. Sinkholes don't just give up fossils, they give us back our wonder. Standing on the wooden overlook at Wyoming's Fossil Butte National Monument, the breeze carries the faint scent of sagebrush and ancient stone. Below, the chalky layers of Green River formations stretch like a geologic layer cake, each stripe hiding fossils so pristine they look like they were pressed between the pages of a book. This is one of the rare places where the public can witness sinkhole science in action. But with that privilege comes responsibility. Park rangers here don't just guide tours, they're guardians of a 50-million-year-old library, ensuring visitors don't accidentally turn a priceless fossil into a souvenir. The rules might seem strict, no pocketing even a pebble, no straying from marked paths, but there's a reason for every restriction. A single misplaced footstep can crack delicate fish fossils preserved in the shale, while oils from human hands degrade bone over time. At nearby Natural Trap Cave, scientists spend months documenting each bone's exact position before removal because context is everything. A mastodon tooth found beside spear fragments tells a different story than one scattered by scavengers. That's why ethical ecotourism programs emphasize observation over collection. At Florida's Devil's Den, snorkelers float above Ice Age fossils visible through crystal clear water, their presence protected by buoy lines that keep fins from kicking up sediment. For those craving hands-on involvement, volunteer digs offer a golden middle ground. The Mammoth site in South Dakota trains amateur paleontologists to brush sediment under supervision, with every find catalogued by professionals. Last summer, a high school volunteer uncovered a rare Jefferson's ground sloth claw still safely embedded in the wall for study. These programs aren't just about labor, they're about stewardship. Participants learn to spot the difference between a random rock and a fossilized leaf, between harmless curiosity and irreversible damage. The digital age has blown open opportunities for armchair explorers. Platforms like Zooniverse's Sinkhole Sleuths let anyone analyze satellite images for undiscovered karst formations, while 3D scans of fossils from Belize caves await classification by online volunteers. One retiree in Norway recently identified a previously overlooked sinkhole cluster in Mexico just by studying topographic maps on her tablet. Museums worldwide now host virtual sinkhole tours where you can examine mastodon teeth or saber-toothed cat vertebrae with zoomable precision, no travel required. Conservation thrives when visitors become collaborators. At Nebraska's Ashfall fossil beds, kids join junior ranger programs to sketch fossilized rhinos, their drawings used in educational displays. In return, park fees fund protective roofing over excavation sites and anti-poaching patrols. This symbiotic relationship proves that wonder doesn't have to come at the cost of preservation. Whether you're peering into a cenote's depths or clicking through a digital dig, you're part of a chain of discovery stretching back centuries and forward into futures we can't yet imagine. The sinkholes will keep their secrets, but they'll share them generously with those who know how to listen. You might think uncovering ancient fossils requires a lab coat and years of academic training, but some of the most exciting discoveries start with ordinary people paying attention. Take the case of a hiker in New Mexico who snapped a photo of what looked like an oddly patterned rock near a sinkhole. It turned out to be the rib bone of a glyptodont, an armored Ice Age giant. That photo, uploaded to the citizen science platform Fossil, caught a paleontologist's eye and led to the excavation of an entire Pleistocene ecosystem. This isn't a fluke. From suburban backyards to national parks, everyday explorers are contributing to real science through projects designed to harness collective curiosity. Platforms like Fossil and iNaturalist have revolutionized fossil discovery by turning smartphones into research tools. Users upload images of unusual stones or odd formations near sinkholes, where machine learning algorithms and expert moderators sift through submissions for potential finds. Last year alone, amateur reports from these platforms flagged over 200 previously undocumented fossil sites, including a Kentucky farmer's field that hid a trove of mastodon teeth beneath its topsoil. But the magic doesn't stop at photography. Museums worldwide now offer virtual digs, where anyone with an internet connection can scrutinize 3D scans of sinkhole sediment, tagging bone fragments and artifacts from their couch. The Smithsonian's Deep Time project, for example, crowdsourced the analysis of a Florida sinkhole's contents, resulting in the identification of a new species of extinct peccary, all thanks to eagle-eyed volunteers spotting subtle jawbone variations. The beauty of these initiatives lies in their accessibility. In Australia's Narracourt Caves region, local schools partner with paleontologists to monitor sinkhole edges for freshly exposed fossils after rainstorms. Kids as young as 8 have uncovered kangaroo ancestors' teeth, their finds displayed in museum cases alongside professional discoveries. Meanwhile, the University of Florida's Sinkhole Scout program trains retirees to recognize fossil-bearing limestone, turning Florida's sprawling retirement communities into an army of amateur field researchers. One 72-year-old participant, a former postal worker, recently identified a cluster of saber-toothed cat bones near a golf course, proving you don't need a geology degree to make history. What makes these collaborations so powerful is their ripple effect. When a Tennessee fisherman reported odd shapes in a dried-up sinkhole bed, scientists uncovered an entire Ice Age pond ecosystem, complete with preserved leaves, insects, and a previously unknown fish species. In Spain, a rock climber's Instagram post about a peculiar hole in a cliff face led to the discovery of a Neanderthal burial site. These stories share a common thread: curiosity rewarded, proving that the next great paleontological breakthrough might come from someone who simply paused to ask, "What's that?" For those itching to participate, the entry points are refreshingly simple. Start by learning to distinguish fossils from ordinary rocks. Many museums offer free online guides highlighting telltale patterns like bone porosity or tooth serrations. Join a local geology club's sinkhole field trips, where experts teach safe exploration techniques, or contribute to global databases like the Paleobiology database, where even labeling photos helps train AI to recognize fossils faster. The key is embracing the mindset that every sinkhole, no matter how unremarkable it seems, could be a vault holding Earth's forgotten stories. And sometimes all it takes to crack it open is a sharp eye, a camera, and the willingness to wonder. The delicate bones resting under museum glass tell stories of migrations, diseases, and survival. But whose story is it to tell? When sinkholes yield ancient human remains, institutions face an impossible choice. Displaying these skeletons offers unparalleled insights into our collective past, from genetic lineages to prehistoric diets. Yet for many indigenous communities, these aren't specimens, they're ancestors, deserving the same dignity as any modern burial. The tension between preservation and respect reached a boiling point with Kennewick Man, a 9,000-year-old skeleton discovered in Washington state in 1996. Scientists fought for the right to study his bones, while local tribes demanded repatriation under the Native American Graves Protection and Repatriation Act. The bitter legal battle lasted over a decade, leaving scars that still shape museum policies today. What makes these discoveries uniquely contentious is their context. Unlike Egyptian mummies displayed for centuries, many sinkhole-preserved remains come from cultures with living descendants. In Florida's Windover Bog, the 200-plus burials dating back 8,000 years contained brain matter so well preserved, DNA analysis revealed direct links to contemporary Seminole and Miccosukee communities. For researchers, this was a scientific miracle. For tribal leaders, it was a call to protect sacred ground, the compromise, collaborative stewardship. At the Windover site, tribal monitors now work alongside archaeologists, ensuring excavations follow spiritual protocols like avoiding disturbance during ceremonial seasons. Modern museums are rethinking traditional displays altogether. Chicago's Field Museum made headlines when it quietly removed several Native American skeletons from public view, replacing them with holograms that show detailed anatomy without exposing actual bones. Other institutions, like Mexico's Museo del Templo Maya, let indigenous communities dictate whether human remains are displayed, studied, or reburied. In one poignant case, the museum returned 32 Zapotec individuals to Oaxacan villagers for reburial, but not before creating ultra-high-resolution 3D scans that preserved every anatomical detail for future research. The ethical calculus grows even more complex with globally significant finds like Romania's Red Lady of Sioclavina, a 30,000-year-old skeleton whose ochre-stained bones revolutionized theories about Paleolithic burial rites. With no clear cultural descendants to consult, should her remains stay on display as a window into humanity's dawn? Some argue such cases belong to all people, transcending modern notions of ownership. Others counter that universal reverence for the dead should override scientific curiosity. Emerging technologies offer middle paths. Portable DNA sequencers now extract crucial genetic data from mere milligrams of bone powder, minimizing destruction. CT scanners analyze remains without removing them from protective cases. At Denmark's Mosgard Museum, visitors encounter life-sized projections of the Grobel man, an Iron Age bog body, while his actual remains rest undisturbed in climate-controlled storage. This shift from object to experience reflects a broader realization that the story's bones tell matter more than the bones themselves. Perhaps the most profound change is who gets to decide. In New Zealand, the Karanga Aotearoa repatriation program has brought hundreds of Maori ancestors home from overseas collections. Their sinkhole-preserved remains finally laid to rest according to traditional rites. Meanwhile, in British Columbia, the Heiltsuk Nation co-authored a groundbreaking study on an ancient coastal settlement after insisting their oral histories guide the research. These partnerships recognize a truth too long ignored, that science and spirituality aren't opposing forces, but complementary ways of honoring those who came before us. The next time you stand before a museum case, remember, the quietest bones often spark the loudest conversations about who we are and who we aspire to be. Sinkholes have slithered their way into our collective imagination, morphing from geological oddities into storytelling powerhouses. Who could forget the heart-stopping moment in Indiana Jones and the Kingdom of the Crystal Skull when the jungle floor crumbles beneath Indy's feet, swallowing him into a realm of ancient relics and lurking dangers? That iconic scene taps into a primal fear, the ground itself betraying us while weaving in the very real thrill of subterranean discovery. But Hollywood isn't the only culprit. Horror films like The Hole and The Descent exploit sinkholes as literal pits of dread, where darkness hides unspeakable terrors. These portrayals might be exaggerated, but they're rooted in something genuine, the unnerving unpredictability of these natural traps and the secrets they guard. Beyond the silver screen, documentaries have turned sinkholes into stars in their own right. The BBC's Planet Earth Roman 2 devoted breathtaking footage to Mexico's Cave of Crystals, where gypsum beams the size of ancient sequoias glow under ethereal lighting. The episode didn't just showcase otherworldly beauty, it revealed how extremophile bacteria survive in these toxic chambers, hinting at life's resilience in Earth's most hostile corners. This kind of storytelling does more than entertain. It transforms abstract science into visceral wonder. Suddenly, viewers who have never set foot in a karst landscape find themselves Googling cenote diving tours or donating to cave conservation funds. Video games, too, have embraced sinkholes as narrative engines. In Ark: Survival Evolved, players tamed dinosaurs while navigating tar pits and fossil-rich chasms that mirror real-world Brea. The game's attention to detail, like accurately modeling how quicks and like sediments preserve bones, has accidentally turned players into amateur paleontologists. Online forums buzz with debates about stratigraphy and extinction events, sparked by virtual discoveries. Even Minecraft's Lush Caves update, inspired by real sinkhole ecosystems, has kids planting glowberries and spotting stalactites with newfound appreciation for geology. The ripple effect of these portrayals is undeniable. When Tomb Raider's Lara Croft rappels into a cenote to retrieve a mythical artifact, or when the X-Files ties a sinkhole to extraterrestrial activity, they're seeding curiosity. A teenager might start watching documentaries after recognizing a game's sinkhole mechanics mirror real ones. A novelist might weave accurate paleontology into their next thriller because a documentary stuck with them. And yes, sometimes the dramatizations oversimplify, like when Jurassic World implies DNA survives intact in sinkhole amber, but even those flaws open doors. They give scientists opportunities to clarify, to engage, to say, here's what really happens when we find a mastodon tooth. What's truly fascinating is how these fictionalized versions often circle back to reality. After the descent terrified audiences, real cavers reported a surge in interest followed by a surge in safety courses. When Planet Earth aired its Crystal Cave episode, Mexico's tourism board had to restrict access to protect the fragile site from overcrowding. And when ARK players started asking how real fossilization works, paleontologists welcomed them with open arms, sharing research in Twitch streams and Reddit AMAs. The lesson: pop culture isn't just borrowing from science, it's giving back, turning sinkholes from background scenery into protagonists in humanity's ongoing quest to understand our planet. The next time you watch a character plunge into a gaping abyss, remember, somewhere a real-life explorer is doing the same, not for cinematic thrills, but for the quiet, earth-shattering revelations hidden in the dark. Sinkholes are more than just geological quirks, they're Earth's silent librarians, safeguarding volumes of our planet's untold stories in layers of sediment and stone. Every mammoth molar, every flint tool, every fragile leaf imprint pulled from these depths isn't just a relic. It's a revolution waiting to happen. Think of the teenage girl Naya, whose bones in a Yucatan cenote rewrote the saga of human migration, or the mastodon ribs from a Florida sinkhole that proved humans hunted giants far earlier than we dared to imagine. These aren't scattered clues, they're plot twists in an epic still being written. What's astonishing isn't just what we've found, but how much remains hidden. For every sinkhole mapped by scientists, hundreds more wait undiscovered beneath cities, forests, and ocean floors. The next great revelation might lie under a suburban backyard, a highway median, or the shifting dunes of a desert. With tools like LiDAR and AI now scanning landscapes for subtle depressions that betray a sinkhole's presence, we're on the verge of a golden age of discovery. Imagine a drone pinpointing a collapsed cavern under the Amazon, its walls lined with unknown species. Picture a submersible probing a blue hole in the Philippines, finding a prehistoric shark thought lost to time. The technology exists, it's only a matter of where and when. Yet for all our advancements, sinkholes keep their secrets on their own terms. They demand patience, respect, and sometimes sheer luck. A farmer's plow strikes a curious rock suddenly. It's a glyptodont's armor. A hurricane floods a coastal plain, washing away sand to reveal a Neanderthal's hearth. These moments remind us that paleontology isn't just about labs and lectures. It's about the thrill of the unexpected, the joy of connecting with lives that flickered out millennia before ours began. So the next time you pass a depression in the earth, whether a water-filled cenote or a construction site's jagged pit, pause for a second. That hole isn't empty. It's a vault, a time capsule, a theater where Ice Age dramas played out, where human ancestors took their first trembling steps, where creatures stranger than fiction lived and died. The ground beneath us isn't just dirt and rock, it's parchment, and sinkholes are the paragraphs we've only begun to read. If these accidental archives have taught us anything, it's that history isn't confined to textbooks. It's alive, buried in plain sight, waiting for the right curious mind to dig deeper, ready to explore more. The past is listening. Hit subscribe because the next chapter is yours to uncover.